Hey, Abby here with The Informed Mama. I wanted to do another video to feature one of the questions to ask if you're interested in looking into possibly doing a half cow or a quarter cow or a whole cow for your family. We are doing an adventure right now with my family, and I call it the Licatino Half Cow Adventure. And if you were joining us for another episode of that, then thank you so much. And if you're new to it, I've already done a couple videos as well as a couple posts that are just informational posts on some of the things that I've been learning on this journey. So feel free to go back and check those out on Instagram and on Facebook. The Informed Mama on Instagram, and on Facebook it's just my name, which is Abigail Licatino. So feel free to comment and give me your suggestions. If you have already done this adventure and have learned a lot, please share your lessons with me. I am always looking to educate myself, and especially from people that are more experienced. So tell me the wonderful things about what you think about the half cow or the quarter cow or eighth cow experience that you have had. And then if you're new to this, of course, join along, ask your questions. I'm sure I have the same questions, so feel free to share those with me, and I can ask them on behalf of all of us. So join us on this adventure. Today, I would like to focus on the question of whether, the questions to ask if you're interested in doing this and should you do it. I think a lot of people are held up on doing it because they just, one, don't have the time to look into it and research it. Two, they think it's going to cost a lot of money, so they just automatically negate it out of possibilities. And they also may think it's a little too difficult just to even get started. So my goal is doing this series is kind of to help through those questions and doing the research. I am a researcher at heart. I love deep diving into things that I'm passionate about. So that's kind of what I'm doing here with the half cow, and kind of just taking you along on the journey as I ask the questions, as I do the research, as I look into things a little deeper, ask lots of questions. I will take you along and help you to gather the intel so you can make the decisions for you and your family. So this question of should I get a half cow or quarter cow or eighth cow or whole cow for my family, I think it's great just to first consider it. It's a great option. We'll go into some pros and cons in just a second, but I think first of all, price. I just did a post on cost of grocery store beef versus the local cow option, and I'm going to do a real part 2 of that is I'm going to do a real comparison when I get my actual cow, the actual meat, and we'll weigh it out. I'll show it to you in the packages. We'll put it all out on the table so you can see it all in one place, and we'll go through and I'll weigh each piece so you can see exactly what I got as far as the cuts that I got and how much it all weighed, and we'll break it down per pound cost so you can see what my per pound cost was with the real half cow that I get. But in that first post that I did, it talks about store-bought beef and going through the prices as of, we're in January 2023. So we're looking at the prices of Walmart, which I think is probably affordable to most families, and where they get, a lot of beef. That's where we get a lot of beef. And so I was just comparing some basic cuts that I get for my family from there and listing the prices, and then breaking it down into how much we eat and then cost per pound. So I can kind of compare that to the cost per pound that I'm getting on the local cow that I'm getting. So things that you want to ask yourself to even figure out if you should go down this route is how many people are in your family. If you're just 2 in your family starting off, or maybe you're empty nesters and it's just 2 of you, getting this kind of bulk protein, it may or may not be a good idea for you. Unless you are eating tons of beef, it may not be the best option for you and your family. However, if you are empty nesters and you have other family members, like your children live nearby, maybe you can share your half cow with other family members. Or if you're newlyweds and just starting off, maybe you have another couple that you guys could go in with, because I feel like a half a cow is enough meat for typically a family of 4 or more is kind of what I'd say. So a quarter cow may be an option, or an eighth of a cow is a great option as well. I know a lot of families do that if they have the smaller numbers, or maybe like young babies and they can't eat meat yet, but they still want to get the good meat. So that's an option. Those are all options. I think you also want to consider how often do you eat beef. In our family, we love beef. Red meat is like really, really important to my family. So we eat it 2 to 3 times a week. I think I'd eat it more if it was in the freezer, in the garage. If it's just easy access, we'd probably eat it more, which is another really good benefit. But I think we eat a lot of beef. So we have a family of 6. It's my husband and I, my 3 boys who are 10, 12, and 14. So they're hitting those teenage years where they're eating more. And then my mom lives with us. So grandma lives with us. So we have 3 adults. My 14-year-old eats like an adult. So I'd say 4 adults and then 2 up-and-coming mini teens. So we are eating a lot of food. So I estimated in my math that I did for the beef, about 6 pounds of beef a week. It's probably more, anywhere from 6 to 8. I do a roast or I like a big joint of meat, some sort of big roast or something I can stick in the crock pot or the oven. And then I'll do ground beef. We eat ground beef every week, and I just cooked some up tonight. I did 3.5 pounds of ground beef tonight. So anywhere from 2 to 4 pounds of ground beef a week, and then a roast of some sort, or a big roast or a big piece of beef. So that's usually 2 to 3 pounds itself. So yeah, anywhere from 6 to 8 pounds a week. And now the cuts are all different. So if you're getting steaks, and we do fillets maybe once a month, maybe once every other month. So fillets are like $21 a pound, and we don't do necessarily 3 pounds of fillets. So when I do fillets, I do smaller portions, but we do fillets, and we do sirloin, and we do some of these other more expensive cuts. So if you look at my post that I did on cost, you'll see that in the grocery store, prices range for different cuts of meat. So it can be anywhere from like $3.50 a pound for the lower grade ground beef, to $21 a pound for fillets, and ribeyes are like $11.50, and then some of the prime rib cut, or some of the big roasts like the chuck roast was like $6.50. So the range of cost per pound in a grocery store is quite a wide range. So you can't just say, oh well, the cow, it costs, let's say, $7 or $8 a pound. But that's across all of the cuts. Like everything you're getting from that cow is that. So if you average together the different types of beef that you buy, that's the only way to figure out if it's going to be worthwhile for your budget. So you see my example of how I broke down my family's costs. So that's kind of what I suggest you do, is figure out how many family members you have, how many pounds of beef you eat a week, and then look at a grocery list from your local grocery store that you buy meat at, and find out how much they are per cut cost, so that you get a full kind of idea of the average of the amount of money you're paying for your beef. So what I did was I listed the different cuts that I would normally get from the Walmart website, and I listed the per pound average of each of those cuts, or what they listed on the website, and then I put the per pound of what I think I'm going to get, and then I kind of multiplied that out to get a cost of what that piece of meat would cost. And then what I did was I took all of the per pound amounts, added those up together, and then divided it by how many cuts there were. So I had 10 cuts listed, like the fillet, the sirloin, the chuck roast, the ground beef, and then I added up all their per pound cost and then divided it by 10, because I had 10 different cuts, and that gave me an average of 8.84, I think, per pound. So if I were to get those in the cow, I'll be able to, when I get those prices, I'll be able to do a exact comparison, which I'll do in part 2. So you can do that too. It doesn't take long. You can do it right from home on the computer. Go to walmart.com just to kind of get it, and then you can search each cut to kind of figure out what the cost per pound is for that. And then figure out what you're paying per week on beef, and then you can see if you get a half cow, and for your family that's going to last about 6 months, that's 26 weeks, and then you can kind of figure out what you would pay per week for the local bought cow. And then you can figure out if that's going to be budget worthy for your family. It's kind of a neat way to kind of look at it. Now, some of the, I'm going to go over some of the benefits and the cons of doing local beef versus a grocery store. And the local beef, I'm talking about whatever one you choose, whether you do grain-fed, grain-finished, or grass-fed, grain-finished, grass-fed, grass-finished, whatever. I'm just talking a local farmer that you know, that you could actually go and see the cow and the health conditions, and that it's not like the big box grocery store brand that you're buying. So we're comparing a local cow versus a cow that you would get in a grocery store. So some of the benefits that we've already mentioned kind of a couple times are health benefits. You know where this cow is coming from. You can go visit it. You can go see what its environment is like. It's being treated, how it's been treated. If from the time it was born, it's been with its mother and was never taken away from its mother, and that it's grass, fed, that it's being fed grass, that it's being, cared for. It's free range, so it's roaming and it's getting a lot more exercise, and it's going to be a leaner thing, and that they're not giving them antibiotics, they're not injecting them with hormones, they're not giving them a bunch of vaccines and other things that can really cause the meat to be almost contaminated by the medicines that they're giving it. So and also making sure that the food that they're giving it, if they are giving it grain, that they're not doing additives into that food, that they're not putting the hormones in the food, and that they're not doing antibiotics in pill form in the food. So those are all things that you need to consider, because when you eat that beef, you are ingesting all of those things. So if you're doing a local farm where, they're telling you that they're not putting hormones and they're injecting them or in their food and all of that, then they're going to be a healthier meat, which is going to, in the end, save you on a lot of health care later on in the future. So I find that's my number one reason to do this. I also like supporting small businesses in the local area, so you can consider that too. Instead of supporting the grocery store or Walmart, you are now supporting a small family that's raising cows in the local area. And so I always find that helping out a local business is always a huge benefit and a wonderful thing to do. Now, I also think that there are some added expenses to doing a local cow. You are buying bulk. So with that, if you don't have room in your freezer, then you may need to buy a freezer. One of my first posts I did was on freezer and what size freezer to get if you're getting a eighth cow, quarter cow, half cow, and it kind of tells you about how much meat comes from each of those different portions of a local cow. You also have to know if you're getting a calf or a cow. A calf is kind of the smaller size. They're 1 year old to 18 months versus a steer or a cow, which is going to be full sized at 2 years or older. So you need to figure out like what kind of bulk meat you're getting. Typically, if you're getting anything 50 pounds or more, you're going to need quite a bit of freezer room space. So I give suggestions on what size freezer to get. But those are all things to consider, because that would be an extra expense. We also highly recommend, if you're getting a freezer, that you should get a generator as well, because God forbid the AC or the power goes out, you don't want your freezer to defrost with, quite a bit of meat in there, hundreds of dollars worth of meat. So to protect that investment, you're going to need to have some sort of generator power or some alternative power that's going to feed your freezer and keep it cold in case your power goes out. So that is also an added expense. Some other pros of getting a local beef is that you are going to be getting a reliable source. So this is a farmer that you've built a relationship with. You are buying bulk. You have a huge amount of meat in your freezer, which is a really good thing, I think, because you can go out there and get your food. You don't have to go to a grocery store, or with today's times, as weird as they are, sometimes things are running out. Like right now, eggs are hard to find in a grocery store. That's just absolutely crazy to me. But that could be beef. And by having, you know, hundreds of pounds of beef in my freezer, I don't have to worry about that. Like, and I have a local farmer I can go and get more beef from, that I can trust and know will have cows, that isn't going to tell me that, you know, the climate change has killed all their cows, because they're just my normal local farmer who is trying to make a living. And so I can call them up and say, hey, I need another half cow, and I'm going to be able to get it. And I'm not going to have to, you know, rely on a grocery store that may say they're out or that they don't have it. And now I'm being reliant on the grocery store to tell me what I can and cannot eat. And that is something that my family wants to kind of exit the food system, so that we're not relying on big companies like that can tell me when I can and cannot, and what I can and what I cannot eat. And so by going local, that you're going to be able to do that. Cost is something that you're going to have to really consider too. I think this is a pro, because I do think that local grass-fed or the local grass-fed beef farm that we're going to have very good prices, and so it ends up being cheaper than doing the grocery store. And if you add in the health benefits and the what I'm going to save on health bills in the future, because we're just having healthier food, I think all of that adds up to being a very good cost benefit. And even if it was a little more, which I suspect it might be a tiny bit more per pound, for me, just knowing where the cow's coming from, that it's just going to probably taste so much better, and that it's just a better quality, and that I'm supporting a local farmer, to me, that is all worth the extra little bit of money. But we'll see a final cost analysis in my video when I get the cow in March, and we'll be able to figure out what the actual cost per pound is going to be. And then quality, I think that you really can't put a price or you know, the benefits on the quality. The quality of this local beef is going to be so much better. I mean, like, the cow that we're getting is literally 30 miles away from my house, so that it doesn't have to go on transports, that it's not being shipped from farm to farm, that it's not being fed different types of food all throughout its life, that its mobility is being limited, that its treatment is limited. I mean, I saw a video of a science fair project of them talking to plants, and some plants were given negative words and some plants were given positive words, and the ones that were given positive words were thriving. So I can only, and the ones that were negative were not thriving. I can only imagine what happens to our food supply when they're in really negative environments. And so if you can find you know, meat sources that are in positive environments while they're growing, I just think that all benefits the food and the meat, the end product of us eating. You know, that's just kind of what I think. So I think that's something to really consider, and a really good pro for local beef. But tell me what you think. I mean, like, what do you think as far as pros and cons? I mean, the convenience of going to a grocery store is great, but the convenience of going to my garage is even better, right? And like, if I have surprise family members pop in and visit, I can pull out a big roast right out of the freezer and have it ready in the next 24 hours, you know, and I don't have to go and, you know, hope that the grocery store has it or anything like that. So I think the benefits are just really, really awesome. For my family, we eat so much beef that getting it in bulk and getting it, you know, at a lower cost per pound is going to be a huge benefit, and I'm really looking forward to it. But give me your feedback. Let me know what your experience. If you've already done this adventure, let me know what you think. And if not, if you're going on this adventure with me, let me know what you think so far, if I've answered your questions, if you have additional questions, where you would like me to focus on next. What I'm hoping to do next is the cuts, and get your opinion on what your favorite cuts of beef are. And for you that have done it, like, what do you suggest that I get or don't get, and what your favorite cuts from your half cow were, so I can make sure I can add it to my list when I talk to the butcher. But that will be my next video. Stay with us on this adventure. We're just super excited to be doing this. We are looking at getting it in about a month and a half. So we'll keep you on the journey with us through each step. And I appreciate you guys joining us on this. Thank you so much. Take care.